So I'm going to go backwards in time to show you where we were in terms of the drugs and where we now are, and this is kind of the exciting now where we are. So when I sort of showed up here in 2002, 2004, these are the only drugs we had. This zoledronic acid is a bone building agent. It doesn't stop the progression of the disease, but it helps stabilize the bones from breaking and helps control some of the pain, which is very worthwhile, but it doesn't change the outcome per se of the disease. As I spoke about, the first and only chemotherapy that changed survival, in other words, made that gentleman live longer, was this chemotherapy called docetaxel. Now, yes, it was an important drug. The problem, of course, is it's chemotherapy, and many of you in this room can appreciate that not everybody is well enough to undergo chemotherapy. That doesn't speak to just your age. We have to say that in all the cancers we look at. And so not every gentleman was well enough to even consider this. And it was not a fun therapy to go through, as many of you know. So there really was nothing for nearly a decade here. And all of a sudden, we got a whole host of good stuff that's available to us. So, to put the new stuff in context, we got to look at the old stuff just so you can appreciate how good the new stuff is. This Taxotere was given as an injection once every 3 weeks. We could divide it up. The standard was every 3 weeks. The side effects were a lot of fatigue, a lot of low blood, and a lot of nerve troubles. And the survival benefit was 3 and a bit months. In other words, this is the whole group of men, the men or the gentleman that took the chemotherapy would live longer by 3 months than the gentleman that doesn't. Now that's not entirely true because that takes the group as a whole. What we found is if we tried the chemotherapy and you could tolerate it and it worked, usually you would get a benefit, and if it didn't, it wouldn't. But nevertheless, it was a tough treatment, and I'm going to argue a modest benefit. As I said, when that stopped working or we couldn't use it, we sometimes would talk to you about a drug called mitoxantrone. It's an old drug from the 1990s. It for some reason made you feel better. It took some of the symptoms away. I'm not quite sure why, but it never made you live longer. So there was always a debate, was it worth coming to the clinic and waiting in our waiting rooms, etc., to get a drug that may make you feel better, but didn't make you live any longer. And now we're at this slide, which represents these 5 options to look at. This is a slide that I'm going to test Mr. Grant on at the end of the, he doesn't get it, he doesn't get out the door the next time. So these are what we are looking at in terms of looking at how to target and where to target this is a cell, and we've got all these drugs, and we're targeting different aspects of the cell. And so there's trials looking at this. These are trials going in early stage disease. This is the abiraterone we're going to talk about a little bit. This MDV-3100 here targets this part here. The Sipuleucel is looking at what we call this T cell. There's these 2 drugs called bevacizumab, sunitinib. We're not going to chat a lot about those. This dasatinib is a trial that has been completed in, may not be a home run, but it's another way of looking at this part of the equation. And again, a number of new agents coming here. So you can see this is really an exciting time for individuals who have the opportunity now to really discuss options, whereas before we couldn't do that at all. So one of the earlier outcomes, this was probably a year plus ago, was this immunotherapy. Now it's not available in Canada, but it hit the United States, and it was really quite interesting. What they did is they took a cell called a T cell that you have and I have, and this is a cell that helps in immunity and keeping certain kinds of infections under control. And they took T cells from the gentleman, they took them out, and they mixed them in a petri dish, so to speak, with the prostate cancer cell. And what that does is it activates the cell, it turns it on, And what an immune cell will do, remember I said it's responsible for keeping bugs, infections, and the like in check. Well, it does the same concept. It sees a foreign something or other. In this case, it's not a foreign bug, it's a foreign protein, i.e. your cancer cell, and it starts to attack it. And so what they would do is they take these cells from the gentleman, mix them up, and then infuse this back into you. So your kind of own T cells would turn on, not you, but on your cancer cells. And this was the concept of this Sipuleucel T cell immunity. And this was the trial that they looked at. And again, it was metastatic castrate-resistant disease. And you got these 3 infusions every 2 weeks versus a sham, or what we call this placebo infusion. And there was a survival advantage in favor of this group. Now you can see there's a 2-to-1 randomization. So again, what they did here is they put 2 gentlemen on the intervention arm for everyone that got the placebo, and then what they also did is allowed that gentleman who was on the sham arm to get the real stuff at the end. And despite that, there was a survival advantage. And that's a really, really important thing, because usually when you allow that person to cross over, you don't have enough of a difference to see that there's a survival advantage. We say there's usually a disease-free survival or a little bit of an advantage of who lives longer, but not this very, very important overall survival. So again, this is a therapy that has merit. It's still available in the US, and it costs $1 or $2, so I will tell you it will never be funded in Canada. We're not going after that. It's the wrong tree to bark up of. But this is a little bit of what the graphs show. This is the placebo, and this is the intervention, and you can see about a 3-month survival advantage. However, the graph on your right shows you when they had or didn't have chemotherapy. So in the group that had already had this docetaxel chemotherapy, that's the Taxotere chemotherapy, there was no survival advantage. So this has merit, but again, it represents the merit in a certain stage. Remember, I divided those 3 stages for you. So in a really early stage of castrate resistance, this may have an opportunity. The next drug that came out onto the market is this drug called cabazitaxel. This is an intravenous drug. It's a drug that is a cousin to the taxane, and it was developed by the same company, and it's been shown to what we call overcome the resistance. In other words, when we give a chemotherapy or we give a treatment, it works for a certain period of time because the cells find a way of outsmarting, out-tricking, getting around that drug. That's the concept of cabazitaxel. It said, even though I am getting around the Taxotere way of killing, I can kill you in another way. And so this became a treatment of interest. The problem with this is if Taxotere was toxic, this is toxic squared. Nevertheless, there has been a trial that's run, and we're still looking at it in our center in terms of trying to get some additional information, which looks to whether a reduced dosing might be effective. But this is the original trial. It's called the TROPIC trial. Again, a fairly large trial. And there was a division between this drug, this cabazitaxel, and that, remember I said that second-line drug, mitoxantrone. And there was a lot of debate whether this was the right comparison, but people felt that if you were going to go on to a chemotherapy trial, that person wouldn't want nothing. They'd want at least something. So this is how this was, if you will, balanced. There was no crossover on this trial. There was survival advantage. As you see here, the curves will separate. And again, there's about a 3-month advantage as well, 12.7 to 15.1. So a little bit of an advantage in favor of the cabazitaxel group over this chemotherapy. But remember, that chemotherapy make you feel better, it doesn't make you live longer. The two drugs that follow are now pill drugs. So the first other ones are infusions or intravenous's in some sort or another, chemotherapies. These are therapies now that are going back to manipulating. Remember that fancy graph I told you I was going to challenge one of my patients on? So again, these are pill therapies that go at reducing testosterone that's being produced through another mechanism. And this is the early work that's been done, which looks at the separation of PSA from progression in these individuals. And there have been two studies that have been done. The data is just released. I don't have slides, but I do have the data. This first study is called the AFFIRM study. These were individuals who had chemotherapy, had this Taxotere, and again, they were divided between placebo pills, i.e. sugar pills, and this dose of 160 of this, what we call MDV 3100. And what you see here are the results. This is that it probably made your newsletter and media a couple of months ago when it was released at our big meetings, but there was a very large difference between the group that received these pills versus the placebo pills. You can see, again, 8 months versus 16, depending. This is the analysis and risk of death. This is the what we call progression-free survival. In other words, how long before something progressed, not necessarily how long you lived. Same idea, and again, they looked at PSA progression as a marker of what's going on. So again, no matter what outcome you looked at it, how you sliced it or diced it, there was a very significant advantage for the gentleman receiving these pills. There were a lot of media concerns about seizures that were witnessed. When we do trials, we must write down every single thing that happens to you. Anyone who's been on a trial knows that we're asking questions. The CRAs or the research nurses are asking you questions. So even if you're in a car accident, that gets coded as an event. It's unclear whether these seizures are related to the drug or not. It just could have been. Nevertheless, this may be the one caveat of note. Patients are still screened, but overall, the toxicity or the side effect profile was very, very favorable. Using the same drug, this is called the PREVAIL study. It's set up in the same way of placebo versus the intervention. So these are gentlemen who have not yet received chemotherapy, and this is going to be released next month at a big urology meeting out in Banff. I have no doubt we're going to see the same staggering advantages, just because as we're treating these men, we're not supposed to know which pills they are. You can tell within a cycle which pills they're on. It's that obvious to us, which tells us something good is going to be happening here. The next drug that we have available to us is this drug called amiodarone. This drug has the ability to block an enzyme that will block the production at all three of these sites, and therefore, if you will, further castrates that gentleman, hence sort of where this initial term came from, or we switch from hormone sensitive to castrate resistant, because what we're saying is unless we block all of this, you're not necessarily castrate resistant. And this is the pathway that I think is pretty neat, that shows you how this drug works. So usually what happens is your body makes testosterone by going down this normal pathway. What amiodarone does is block this there, and so blocks the total production of testosterone so that your cells don't see anything of it. That's what we call the therapeutic effect. The additional effect here is that if you're blocking this way, what happens is you start going down this way. And so this loop goes back to here, and there is some risk of getting fluid retention, hypertension, bloating, this kind of thing. And what we have been able to do is just give individuals a little bit of prednisone, this 5 milligrams BID. Most of you sort of recognize that little dose. And by doing that, we are able to block this pathway, and so you get this complete therapeutic effect, complete block here with very, very little side effect. This has been tremendous because the old drug that worked through a sort of similar pathway was something called aminoglutathione, and to get this, we would have the same kind of feedback, but to block it on the old drug, we had to give much, much higher doses. And again, it was really a little bit more challenging for individuals to take the pills you needed for the aminoglutathione and all the pills we needed for the hydrocortisone. So again, this is what we end up doing. This is the study we're referring to. And again, these are patients who have had chemotherapy. And what's interesting here is in the other 2 studies that I showed you, for the most part, gentlemen had 1 chemotherapy treatment only. These individuals on this study could have had 1 or more. It could have been Taxotere and another one, or it could have been Taxotere break and then Taxotere again. And that means that this group of patients was even more advanced in their illness or had what we call more burden of disease, and that's probably important. So again, this group of individuals received the real treatment. This was the placebo, and it was 2 to 1, so twice as many individuals had the opportunity to get the drug. And what you're going to see here is, again, a very, very nice advantage of nearly 4 months. In other words, survival advantage for the group that was receiving the abiraterone. And it splits really quite early. You can see somewhere around 3 months, you can see the advantage start to show. The other really nice advantage that we see and have been able to understand on this drug, it may be on the 30, we may see, and I suspect we will see this on the 3100, but that data is coming as we speak, is if you look here, this is what we call a forest plot, and everything to the left of this dotted line says the person on the therapy will do better. If you're on this side, it says placebo, or doesn't really matter. So you can see, doesn't matter how we sliced it or diced it, everybody, didn't matter who or what, whoever you were, whatever category you fell into, there was an advantage taking these pills. And it is important because the first thing we looked at is what we call ECOG, or baseline performance. It is well known in cancer medicine, if you are sicker starting a drug, sicker because the cancer is making you sicker, not because you have other problems, but if you've got more cancer in you and you're sicker from that cancer, you are less likely to do well, either because we can't get the drug into you, or there's just so much cancer, it's like pushing a truck up a hill. But as you can see here, both groups did better. However, just as we said, if you were better, if you were healthier, you had a better advantage than if you were a little bit sicker. So both groups were better, but it still spoke to, if we can get this into you earlier, you're going to do better. The same was, this BPI looks at pain. So again, whether you had a little bit of pain or a little bit more pain, both groups had the advantage. The group with the lesser pain did better. If you had 1 chemotherapy or 2 chemotherapy regimes, both advantage, but the gentleman who had received it only once versus the gentleman who had received it twice did better. And it goes on and on. And that really was a very important message to us, trying to say we are going to try and use this. We've got to try and get our hands on it first. But as when we get our hands on it, the question for us is, how do we position it? Where do we position it? The other bit of detail I want to show you is look down at the ages here. The gentleman who was older than 75 years of age did in fact even better, or the advantage was more robust than the younger gentleman. I think the point here is not that it doesn't work in the younger gentleman, but importantly, in the past we've had nothing, or it hasn't been safe, or it's been too difficult to get many of these chemotherapy agents into these gentlemen. It's a tough chemotherapy we had. So by and large, these gentlemen were probably less heavily treated. We went straight to these drugs. And so again, it speaks to the concept, we can treat no matter how old or how young you are, how healthy or how unhealthy you are. And we are seeing this in the clinic. We are taking elderly gentlemen with very advanced prostate cancer that literally are still in bed and giving them these pills, and they're coming in a couple of months later walking and smiling. So again, this is more of the same, showing whether you have disease only in the bones or in the liver, what your PSA level is, other, if you will, variables that we would look at. And again, everything is in favor of using these pills.